So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As mentioned, this webinar is recording. So it will be recorded throughout the session for future reference and will be available on our website. So I'll let folks trickle in here. Very excited to be here. My name is Brooke Lynch, Student Recruitment Officer based out of our Frost campus. And I'm here with Dr. Ben Walters, and I will provide a proper introduction to Ben as well. So welcome to the Forestry Technician Adaptive Practices Co-op and Forestry Techniques Wednesday webinar. We'll be together for about the next hour. So while we just wait for folks to trickle in, we'll start the session with a quick little video about Fleming College.
Always lit, even outside. Smile on my face, don't kill my high. Never stagnate, just passing by. Can't stay still, don't ask me why. Where to next, let time decide. Me and the world see eye to eye. Life's a journey, enjoy the ride. Get vibey with it. See me on the deck, we live in the mix. Get with the bass one time, let it make the room go crazy, cause we don't miss. I just go with the flow. Get yourself up if the mood gets low. Sometimes chill, take it slow. Any bad vibes, hit the road. Hit the road. Bad vibes, hit the road. Chill, take it slow. Bad vibes, hit the road.
Amazing. And I see a few folks still rolling in, so that video did give us a bit of buffer time there. And the next slide is a land acknowledgement slide. I would like to respectfully acknowledge alongside Fleming College that we are situated on the Mississauga lands and the traditional territory covered by the Williams Treaty. Miigwech, Mississauga people, for allowing us to continue our work in your territory. I'm very thankful to live and work in on these lands for sure. So as I mentioned too, this session is recorded for future reference on our website. And I'm very proud to be here tonight representing Fleming. My name is Brooke Lynch, Student Recruitment Officer, and I'm here alongside Dr. Ben Walters. So thanks, Dr. Walters, for joining us tonight. He's a faculty and program coordinator for the forestry programs at Fleming College and has taught courses throughout the program, ranging from field camps to data collection to GIS to forest management, forest ecology, and conservation. He's a graduate of Fleming College with diplomas in ecosystem management and parks and forest recreation, and has a PhD in environmental and life sciences from Trent University, where he studied the ecological relationships between snowfall, soil moisture, insects, and breeding birds in the Ganaraska Forest. Prior to Fleming, Dr. Walters managed the 5,500-acre Northumberland County Forest, including its timber harvesting, recreation, and conservation programs. He has also performed landscape inventories and monitored birds in Ontario and Eastern Canada. Ben incorporates his passion for forest management, conservation, and restoration with forest birds in his applied research program to create and steward habitat for the endangered Kirkland's warbler, which students participate in throughout their coursework. His goal is to help students find their current and future roles in the forestry sector and learn more about conservation and the natural world. So very happy, as I mentioned, to be here today, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Dr. Walters, to go over the overview, and there will be an opportunity for questions in the chat feature. So Dr. Walters, would you like questions throughout the session or to hold them till the end in the Q&A?
Yes, if someone has a question, I do have the chat open myself as well. And so if anyone has a question, I'll try to monitor it. I'll try to pay attention. No, Brooke, you can also just jump in. Yeah, if anyone has a question, please bring it up. especially if it pertains to something you're seeing right there. I'll try to answer it. I'll try to catch it and answer it as best as I can. Then, yes. Well, and thank you very much for that introduction, Brooke. I also want to start by acknowledging the other faculty and technicians or technologists in our program. So these are some of the faces you'll become familiar with if you join us at Fleming in forestry program. We have a lot of other folks as well that are on contract, and so these are the full-time folks though that you would be seeing. So I'll start in the upper left and I'll move down, ending I'll go across the top and then across the bottom, ending in the bottom right. And so we have Ryan McNaughton, who's our cluster technologist, and his background is a lot of forest management. You'll be with him in any course that has sort of forestry operations involved in it. Cole Vanderschaft, who particularly supports courses like dendrology, and I'm going to mention some courses here, but I'll talk about them as well when I get to a bit more detail about the courses. And then we have Steph, who is a technologist as well as a teacher, doing courses like woody plant propagation. And then starting on the bottom row, we have Katrina Van Osh Saxon, who teaches courses like forest entomology and pathology and woody plant propagation as well. We have Tom Michael with the big chainsaw. We'll teach courses like dendrology as well as forest products. So I like to distill that one just down to sawmilling. He also teaches a course called maintenance and operation of equipment, which I also like to just call our chainsaw course, but does include other equipment as well. A lot of hands-on stuff there. Then we have Sean Morgan, who is our all things GIS. He's our GIS guru and he teaches our GIS courses. And then lastly on this side, we have Cindy Broughton, who is in her natural element there among the rocks. She is our resident geologist, and so she teaches in our program. She teaches courses like soils and ecosystems, as well as some of the soft skill courses. We try to blend a lot of hard skills like sawmilling, like chainsawing, with soft skills, like even applying for jobs. So those are sort of the faces of Fleming Forestry, among a number of others that teach more specific courses. So let's talk about forestry, because sometimes prospective students don't even really know maybe what is forestry, what kind of jobs could I get from forestry. So I think that's a really great place to start. And one of the great things about forestry is that it's an industry-based program. So there is a core industry across Canada that is forestry, right? That means that there are jobs that are needed to then supply that forestry industry, and the highly variable. This is one of the broadest sort of sectors. And it can be anything from, like in this image, we've got nursery operations. So it could be growing trees to be planted out. It could be urban forestry. It could be logging operations. So trees down for harvest. It could be harvest site supervision, or even managing logging operations. That's a really common one. I should also mention, at different times of the year, one of the nice things about this industry or this job, you'll be doing a little bit of all of this throughout the year. And then we have management applications, things like, yes, depending on which program you take. And I'll also be getting into that today too, because we have a couple of programs which I know can feel a bit confusing, and so make sense of those. So it could be GIS work, computer work, database work, management planning, that type of thing. Then we have more forestry operations. So in this case, you'll see there's a person putting blue paint on a tree, and blue paint, for example, to mark out values in the forest. And so one of the jobs that people can get are doing block layout and tree marking. So that's where we're planning for the forestry operation, and we're out laying out where the harvest operation will occur, and then marking trees for removal or marking trees for protection, like we do with blue paint, for example. Then there's sawmill operations and everything around sawmill operations, from log scaling to log buying to actually creating the product. Timber cruising. We have this term called timber cruising. That's what, there's an image there of a person putting a tape measure around a tree. We would call that timber cruising, but it's also called forest inventory or forest measurement. So that's actually going out and taking stock of the forest, because we need to know what, and that's a really common position for forest technicians, is forest measurement, taking the inventory so that they can do the planning on it. There's lots of work in the forest fire sector right now, or wildfire management, tree planting and restoration jobs. So tree planting for replanting after a harvest, to also planting for restoring or creating new forests, and then wildlife conservation, which is close to my heart, as you could tell in the intro that Brooke gave me, and that it ranges a whole gamut. So each of these, even though I just went through these could all be broken out into actually much larger explanations as well. But that at least gives you an idea of what some of the different jobs, and these are students are going to work either in their first semester co-op or their first summer co-op if they're in the 2-year program, or after they graduate. Forestry is also a regulated profession. So in Ontario, if you go to a forestry technician program, whether it's with us or another college, there's a provincial standard. So there's to teach to a base minimum. There's baseline things that have to be learned. Fleming's program goes over and above that. And when you see our name, it says Forestry Technician Adaptive Practices. You'll see that in a minute. That's because we were able to get a modifier, because we teach to the baseline and then we go over and above. The importance of that is that we do teach to a provincial standard. So when people are hiring forestry technicians in Ontario, it's a legislated position. So there's actually, in law, there is the term forestry technician. So that's a very important factor, because it allows you to get higher positions. There's also a whole other thing called registered forest technicians and registered professional foresters. And what those are is, those are governed bodies that regulate those positions. So you can work your way to those. After you graduate, you can become a registered forest technician out west, for example, out in Western Canada. And that's there's a governing body that oversees that. And then there's the professional forester, registered professional forester, which is, I would say, like akin to an engineer, where they actually have a stamp and they can do certain things that other people can't, as far as approving different types of documents. That's a bit further down the line, but we do have a number of students that go on to particularly become these things called associate registered professional foresters, or they go off to university to become a registered professional forester, or you can work your way through that accreditation as well. So there are accreditation opportunities, which obviously when you're looking at a job market, that's a really important factor, and that's a progression in what you can become. But overall, it's just a very wide breadth of opportunities and a very large job market that supports a lot of different factors within the natural resources sector. And even supports other natural resources sectors like mining or agriculture, for example. You can't build a mine without doing the forestry and removing the trees to get there, and doing those inventories to get there. So there is a lot happening. I know sometimes the news doesn't make you feel that way, but there is a lot happening, and I always say, you know, wherever you're sitting right now, look around your room and look at all of the things that are made out of wood. And that just goes to show you how ingrained that sector is and how important it is to the Canadian economy. And we're lucky to have this natural resource, this renewable resource in Canada all around us. So now I'm going to get into, unless anyone has any questions about jobs, I'm looking, I don't see any questions yet, but please feel free. I can't get into, I may not have tons of details or facts, but I can try to answer them, or if you think of them, write them in later. But right now I want to start off with that we have these two programs. And so if you've seen our program pages, you've maybe seen this, that we have within our we call it the forestry cluster. We have one program called Forestry Techniques and one called Forestry Technician Adaptive Practices. And then we have co-op, the longest name in the world. I'm going to break those two down right now, because I know that that's a confusing thing. And I know that the terminology, the names are very close, which can be a bit confusing, but sort of this is the important information here. So I've got a comparison, a sort of side by side. So if you look at the rows in this chart, that's what you're seeing. So you've got Forestry Techniques on the left and Forestry Technician on the right. So right away, for the entrance differences is Ontario Secondary School Diploma needed for both. If you're an international student, there is a whole other aspect to that I can't really get into here, but we can help you work through that. And obviously, even if you don't have these things, please, but you want to take the programs, please reach out to us, because there are additional options, particularly mature students and so on. But Technician, the 2-year diploma. So the one on the left is the 1-year certificate program, Forestry Techniques, and the right is the 2-year diploma. Have a minimum of grade 11 C and grade 12, grade 11 C, sorry, that's and grade 12 C English. Those are the minimums. For, as I mentioned, Forestry Techniques is a 1-year certificate. Technician, it is a 2-year diploma. There is a difference in where you should expect to land in the work world right off the bat, which makes sense, a 1-year certificate versus a 2-year diploma. They are both ministry approved programs, but the intent of a 1-year certificate is that it gives you introductory level knowledge. You'll see, I'll show you the course map in a minute. But the intent is that it's an entry-level position. You start as an assistant and you gain some skills on the job and you gain knowledge on the job. We teach you a base, we prepare you, have sort of this core, this foundation, and you would learn more on the job. The 2-year technician program, it's an entry level as well, college level, but your technician, as I mentioned, so that's a legislative position, and more often starting kind of in that lead or that crew boss type position. For example, we have a person graduating this year, and they're going and becoming a lead tree marker in Algonquin Park this summer. So the expectation, and then also that opens you up to other opportunities. So again, both expected that you would learn on the job, but one is you're learning on the job, but you're learning on the job, and then you're starting advanced in the other one. In the Forestry Techniques, the 1-year certificate, it doesn't really prepare you immediately into a regulated designation. So I talked about those regulated designations in that first slide. You can work your way there. It would again require much more on the job, whereas the 2-year program, there are faster pathways into positions like a registered forestry technician, which is more of an out west thing, as well as a thing as an associate registered professional forester, which actually I believe this was last year's information. I don't think it's changed. In the Ontario Professional Foresters Association, most associate registered professional foresters are Fleming grads. We disproportionately dominate that. Again, I think it's because we're preparing with the over and above. We don't have university pathways straight from the 1-year certificate program, but we do have multiple pathways, including what we call 2+2 pathways. And I know that doesn't always matter at this point when you're learning about these programs, but we do find about a quarter of our students, about 25% forestry students, go on to university after they finish our diploma. And the great thing about a 2+2 you get basically accreditation for your first 2 years at Fleming. You start in third year in a degree program, university that has a Bachelor of Science in Forestry. So somewhere like Lake City or University of New Brunswick are common ones for our students to go on to. It's a very pathway. We work closely with both of those universities. There are differences that the students should expect, which is great to know. So in the Forestry Techniques program, for example, we don't do a lot of math. There always is math. If you're measuring a tree, you have to do some math. There is some math at some point, but it's a lot of addition or multiplication, division. No crazy algebra or anything like that. There's a very small introduction to GIS, but not very much. And there's no major report writing, small reports, but no 30-page reports, for example. Not that we do 30-page in the 2-year either, but no longer reports, I should say. Whereas the 2-year forestry technician, there is more math. We have a math course in it. There's sort of more expectation of using spreadsheets like Excel. We have GIS courses integrated throughout, particularly in your second year, but starting in the first year. And there are some longer reports to write. The intent is that you be writing reports like you would as a forestry technician in the field. I'll get into that as well in a minute, kind of what that might really look like. In forestry techniques, there's no what we call field camps. So field camp is probably a new term to you. So field camp is where we leave the college for a specific amount of time, and we go and we learn offsite as a group. We stay overnight as a group. So in our 2-year program, we have 2 field camps. They both occur in the second year of the program. And the first one's a week-long camp that we host up in that's on the north side of Algonquin Park, and we spend a lot of time in the north end of Algonquin Park and in that area. Second camp, it's a 4-day camp, and we go to Halliburton Forest and Wildlife Reserve. So for example, our students are just gearing up to go there, not this coming week, but the following week is when we go to that camp. And we'll be there for the week. They both have a bit of a different feel. The first one is more around operations. We see lots of operations happening. We do some work on the Kirtland's warbler that Brooke introduced at the start. And then in the second camp, it's much more around forest management, but we also spend time at their sawmill and in their log yard, for example. So what I like to say is, like, so why would someone take the Forestry Techniques program versus the Forestry Technician? So Forestry Techniques is a great post-secondary add-on. So if you've already taken something, if you've taken another program, if you've gone to university, let's say, and didn't get quite the hands-on, didn't get the skills like tree ID, chainsawing, that type of thing, or even took another program at Fleming and wanted more of the terrestrial world, so the on land in the forest world, it's a great add-on because it's 1 year and then you can move on. It's great for people who are time limited. Not everyone has 2 years to give to a diploma, and we understand that. So this is a great opportunity to get skills, to get actual on the job like skills that you can use on the job in a short period of time, and it's that opportunity to get that experience as well. So one of the other things we say is, if you're not sure what you want to do, maybe that's a good option as well, because you don't want to maybe commit to a 2-year. You want to ensure you have the time to complete something so that it's on your resume as completed. Then this is a good opportunity to jump in, get that experience, and see if it's really something that you're interested in, that you like, versus committing to the 2-year. So the great thing about that is that we have made a change. So students coming in 2026, in the fall of 2026, have a great opportunity, which is that we've made some changes to the program, that there's a better, what we call, pathway between the two. So especially talking about that, of wanting to start and not sure if it's a sector, like not even sure if it's something that you want to do. there is a good opportunity to move from the one-year program over to the 2 program. And that's a bit of a change for us. They were 2 very separate programs before, but starting in 2026, they aren't. So these are the way the courses break down. So you'll see that the top row is semester 1 and 2. Then Forestry Technician has what we say it has 5 semesters, but don't let that scare you, because the summer in between where you're working, you go off and work just like anyone else. So it's still a 2-year, no extra. It does sound scarier saying 5 semesters, but it's because the 3rd semester is a co-op. So what you'll notice is the first semesters in both programs are actually the same. So they take the same courses. So there's already, you finish your first semester, if you've realized, I love this, I'm very interested in it, I know I want to do more, I want to learn more, good time to move. Just switch over into the other program and you continue on. You get full accreditation. And then even the 2nd semester is similar. There is some differences, but we've really planned ahead for that. So we've actually already got it mapped out for you, that even if you want to move at that point, we know what courses you've already taken. You'll take some courses, so we'll sort of reach ahead, as we would call it. There's other courses that you'll take early on, and that will free up time for you to catch up on some of the courses that you missed that aren't common to the 2. So they're not fully common, but we've got it all mapped out and all planned out that we can ensure that if you switch over, you'll finish in those 2 years. So let's go through some of the courses. Again, if no one has any questions, I'm looking at the chat. There's nothing in there yet, but if anyone has any questions, let us know. So there's some terminology here that you're like, well, what does that mean, right? For these courses. So dendrology right off the start. So I'm gonna actually walk through basically both years, but I'll start in that common first semester. So we have dendrology, which is the study of trees. It's the tree identification is really for tree identification. So that's our first tree identification course. You'll take one of them in the 1-year program. You'll take 2 of them in the 2-year program. And so we teach you the techniques to identify trees in the field. Forest entomology and pathology, think of that as insects and disease, or insects and fungus. So entomology is the study of insects, and pathology of pathogens in the environment. So we teach you about the insects and fungus in the forest, or insects and disease in the forest. A lot of ID. So this is really focused on ID. Then forest fire science is really about forest fires. So it's a lot of the training that you would take as if you did the forest firefighting course is in this. So we're prepping you, we're setting you up very well to take that course and be successful. It's a common pathway that students want to go in. I would say, again, maybe not quite a quarter, but close to that. And it varies year to year, would go into that as their summer job in their first summer. So you're learning about forests, they exist, how they move, and also learning the equipment to fight them. So we do run pumps and all of that good stuff. Forest measurement, that one is as it says. So we go out and we measure trees, all the different ways to measure trees and all the different tools and techniques to measure trees. And then forest industry preparation, that's so when I mentioned earlier, I said the word soft skills, that would be considered soft skills course, where we teach you about the forest industry, but really we're preparing you for your career. So we're preparing you in getting your resume ready, writing cover letters, interviewing, that type of thing, those types of skills. Operation and maintenance of equipment, the longest name of any course that we've got. That again, I like to just call that our chainsaw course. It's a 90-hour course. It's 1 day a week. You're out in the field every week for 15 weeks. I guess I have a few of those days you're in the classroom for a few of the activities, but chainsaw sharpening, you learn to chainsaw in the field, you're cutting down trees. This year, the students cut down one of my research sites. had trees that we didn't want on the site anymore. And so we used the research site to cut the trees down on. In the winter, this past winter, students in another program, but it goes to show they also take the same course. We're cutting trees within to thin a plantation. You also learn things like chipper use, stump grinder use, and brush saws. So a whole bunch of different tools, right? Hands-on, very applied. All of that, like almost everything that you heard of was applied and hands-on. Semester got forest ecosystems, so that's really why does a tree grow where it does, and why does a forest grow like it does. And so it's sort of a more knowledge-based course. Soils and ecosystems, that's where we get our hands in, and we learn about soils and how to identify them. Woody plant propagation is growing trees in the greenhouse, so we actually growing black oak, red oak, white pine, jack pine, and some students are even growing some of the oddities like sycamore. I'm blanking on some of the other ones that are grown in there right now, but I know I was just in there. I like, that's my favorite place to stop in at in the college, just the greenhouse. And also the trees, again, if the student wants to, they can, the trees that we grow there are again used on the site that we are creating for Kirtland's warbler. So those trees could be the place where one of Canada's most endangered bird species goes and nests in. So again, very, very applied and very related to actual real world activities. We have IT for forestry, so computer use with a forestry focus. Forest products, that's the sawmilling course that I mentioned, and then intro to silviculture operations. So that's where we start. When I was talking about block layout, tree marking, we also, this one's a really fun one. I'll show a picture where we use simulators. And so at the college, we have forestry simulators as well that have logging machines on them. So we have a forwarder and a cut to length harvester. And so in that course, we put you on the simulators and you get time on those because they're machines that we really wouldn't have time to get seat time on otherwise. So that's what a forestry techniques certificate would look like. And as I mentioned, then the forestry technician first semester, very similar. Second semester, also very similar, but you'll see a couple of differences. So intro to forest industry, so just learning all about the forest industry, learning about those regulated and so on, kind of preparing you for that 2-year applied math. So that's where you all of a sudden see that math, which hopefully that doesn't cause anxiety to all of you watching. I know it's one that does cause more of that, but it's very applied. So it's mathematics for the natural resource science. It's very focused on what you would need to know to work in the natural resources sector. So you know that I know I have a teenage son and you hear in math, why am I learning this? I'll never use it. Luckily, this is the math where you're learning it because you're going to use it, right? That's the focus. And then we have what are called electives or general education credits that you have to take along the way that are supposed to just not, they don't have any programs. So that's the idea of them. Some of them are a little more closely related, but the idea is to just broaden your horizons. Then we have code, which I know is a big one for students. They wonder about. That's in our third semester, so that's 455 hours. And what it is ultimately we're making you get a summer job in the industry. We want to see you go out in the industry and come back with additional learning. Again, it's extremely varied. We have students going to do forest fire. We have students going to do we have students going to do tree marking. We have students going to do block layout in out west. We have students that are going to work in urban forestry in large cities like Hamilton, right? It is an opportunity for you to start tailoring to what you're interested in, or at least getting opportunities to go experience new things about what you might be interested in. And we help you find them. I've for example, sent out. So that's a big thing, is that, you know, we don't, it's not a placement in terms of we don't put you in a job. You do have to apply and you do have to get the job. So it does give you that practice. But for example, I was just looking at my list this afternoon. I've sent out so far 66 job ads since September, and most of those job ads are for more than one position. So I know I've at least sent out more than 200 open positions that would be suitable for your co-op. So it's not a case of sort of, will you find something? It's where do you want to work, and be prepared that it could mean moving, right? That's a great opportunity for that, as well, just so that you're starting to think about it. One of the things that we see, and the biggest barrier I see for students, and regardless of whether it's in forestry or any of our other programs, the biggest barrier to summer work that I'm seeing in the natural resources sector is the lack of a driver's license. So that's just kind of an aside, is, you know, it's students say, what certificates can I get? Well, the most important certification is actually your driver's license, interestingly, because if you're wanting to work out in the woods, there's no other way to get out there than to drive, right? Even if
And
you're,
if I can just add
yep,
to that too quickly, our career fair too. We host a career fair in February where we invite employers on campus. So in addition to Ben's connections with sharing job opportunities, we do invite employers on campus for the career fair. So great opportunity. They come right to us. And just to give you a bit of a time check too, Ben, we're at 6:36. So
yeah, I'll move on. So
okay.
yeah, so ultimately, it's our second year is when things really ramp up with the learning. So you've field camp, as I mentioned already, conservation and forestry operations, which is learning all about logging operations, technical report writing, which is a small one and it supports another course, MITIG, which is an Indigenous Perspectives on Forestry course, practical ecology and civics, which I'm going to actually give you a little more detail on that one in a minute. That one's a really fun one. That's our big one. It's like a 165-hour course, and it's in the field almost every week, and we're putting you in a workplace environment. That's the intent of that course, is that we're going to do the workplace workflow for a forestry technician. And so that one I'm going to give you some more information on in a minute. I already talked about semester 5's winter camp as well. Dendrology too, so there's that dendrology term again, so tree ID. Again, applied forestry is, again, I would call that our tree marking course. We're talking about different strategies we use to manage forests, particularly in Ontario, and then we prepare people to challenge the Ontario tree marking certification. And we help organize that so that students can go afterwards and get that certification if they want, because it is offered by a different governing body, but we organize it and get a big discount. Students are prepared throughout that course to just go ahead and challenge that exam. Whereas if you did it on your own, you'd have to put yourself up 5 days in Huntsville, and it's 5 continuous days of training, followed by testing at quite a large cost. It's well over $2,000 if you take it on your own, and we can challenge it. It changes, but it's around $300 or $400, around $400. Silvicultural planning, so that's where we start planning forestry activities. We focus that around this program called MIFTIP, the Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program, and then finally your last elective. So we're very heavy on applied skills. I hope that came through in explaining that. You know, we've got the Kirtland's Warbler project, and there's students in a field there in that image, and they're actually doing soil sampling at that site to prepare for our tree planting. So we're planting, right now we've got a couple hundred acres that we're planting trees on so far. For that, so we need to know the soils. We also, once the trees are planted, our students are back to that site to do the tree survival assessments. They're out doing tree density surveys, so they're heavily involved as well. When we have funding, I've hired numerous students to help program with that project. So we love integrating this real world activity. The land is owned by the Outrageous Marine Land Trust. We have an agreement with them to manage the land on their behalf. Very cool agreement, and approach. We, as I already mentioned, the forest fire practice, the tree measurement. There's the image that to bring up the image of the simulator. So there's an image of the cut to length harvester being used on the simulator. That's what the simulators look like. They even move on you, and we do reptile and amphibian ID along with tree ID. We do birds and reptiles and amphibians and a number of things. We grow. Sawmill is kind of hard to see in that picture, but it's back behind the tractor there. We have 2 different sawmills right on campus that we practice on, and you'll learn lots of different cuts, and you'll learn and so on. And finally, those brush saws that I already mentioned are just a few of them, the chainsaws as well. I already mentioned that information. So co-ops, I already did mention this, that it is a mandatory co-op. You have to do it, the 450 hours in a wide range of positions. So this was the one that I wanted to get back to as well, was I had said in our 4th semester, if you take the 2-year diploma, that take this workplace approach. So this is what I wanted to explain. I feel like this is a very important thing because it's a really different way of approaching education and of it, and we think it really works well. It really gets students involved. So what we do is we simulate a workplace environment where for 15 weeks in the 1 semester, you prepare a map. So you actually get data, we give you the data, we give you the site, we say prepare a map. You're going to prepare a map for yourself to go out to the field with. Our maps it onto your personal device that acts as a GPS. We give you the program to do that, so you have a GPS on your phone, and we can, if necessary, you go out to the field and you collect data based on the map you made. So you've made your own map, you now go out and collect your own data. So groups go out, you learn group dynamics, and you learn how to collect data just as you would in a forestry operation. Then you bring those data back into the lab, re-download the data from your maps, make new maps that would be for a report, take your data and turn it into a report with lots of figures and writing. I said there is some longer report writing, but you do it as a group, and then you actually present that information. So just as you would if I was a forester, I need you to go out and collect data on this site. You'd be like, okay, go and do it, come back and present to me what you found, right? So we multiple times with a few different tweaks put in, different forest types or different reasons, but ultimately it is the intent is to just follow that. What would you do as a forestry technician to get you that workplace experience? And as I mentioned, we have the field camps, so these are extremely fun, which is why I like to show the pictures. I'm down to the last few slides here, just so that you know. So we go and see logging operations, which, having worked in forestry, I just love still going to logging operations. That's for me the highlight, and for others there will be other highlights, right? And that's the beautiful thing, is that within forestry, the number of people that have said to me, I never thought I would be interested in logging operations, and now I'd love to run one of those machines, is huge. It's always a surprise. I think once you get around them and you hear the sites, you see it and you smell it, and you see actually how important they are to the industry and how good of a job they do. You can't help but be taken with it. We go to sugar shack, so maple syrup farms. We go into things like large forest fires. That's the Bissett Creek burn that we go into there. You can see some logging operations. The students are working in a clear cut in one of those pictures. That's actually in Algonquin Park, and it's another one of our Kirtland's warbler sites. So in that case, we're helping prep the site for tree planting this spring. So we've got multiple sites where we're trying to do this. I should mention, like, that bird, there's only about 40 of them in all of Canada. And the sites are inaccessible. The only 2 accessible, well, one of the accessible sites will be ours. This site won't even be accessible to the public, really. It's so remote. So it's a very exciting project to be working on, and for students to be participating and to be making that much of a difference in conservation actually while you go to school is pretty impressive. We learn things like helicopter safety. So we go to a airport one day and you spend the day calling in helicopters, working under them while they're hovering. Literally, a student is underneath that helicopter while it's hovering, hooking up the forest fire equipment to it, and going up in them and learning how to work around them, and doing fun things like sing songs and going to mills. So that's a really cool mill called a veneer mill that makes the sheets that are used to make plywood, for example. Our winter camp has definitely a different feel because there's snow on the ground and it's much more based around forest management. We're going to one of the largest private working forests in all of Canada, definitely in all of Ontario. It's a privately owned forest that takes up basically an entire municipality. And they have lots of different things going on there. They have multiple mills. We go to a mill, we practice log grading and stuff like that. And we also go to their wolf center, for example, and there are raptors brought in. There's a student with a kestrel on their hand that flew to his hand and landed on it, for example. So they're very immersive, very fun to spend that much time with your classmates, and actually eat and sleep with all the classmates and meet different ones and meet your faculty and technologists as well while we're there. So that was everything that I had for the forestry technician program. I think the next more Brooke, so I'll pass it back over to you, Brooke, and but I look forward to any questions that people might.
Yeah, that was amazing, Ben. Thanks so much. I always learn things while I'm listening. The slide that Ben has up there now is just, you can scan that QR code and you can be directed right to the program page. I'll also put it in the chat here for us. The next slide too, Ben, will provide your email address. So if anyone wants to jot it down, I will put mine in the chat as well. So even after we close off today, if you do have more questions, you can reach out to us directly. Also would like to mention that we are having an open house Saturday, April 11th from 10 to 1. So that's a great time to visit our campus, check out our fleet of equipment, check out our sim labs, connect with faculty and students in the program, and really explore our Frost campus in Lindsay. So anyone that wants to type in the chat here, would be happy to answer your questions. And thanks, Rob. You're welcome, Robbins. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. But there's lots of ways to stay connected and keep connected. As you can see there, we offer personal campus tours as well. If you're not available to join us for open house, you can scan the QR code or just book a tour on our website as well. Maybe pop in here, the open house, yep, 10 to 1. Perfect. I'll even grab the link if anybody would like to register. But don't be shy. Feel free to pop in your questions and we can get them answered for you if you have any today. Or if there's none, because Ben did cover a lot, maybe there aren't any questions at this point too.
So the question in the chat is what sort of jobs could someone get with just the forestry techniques program? So that would be a lot of sort of data collection type jobs. That's a quick one that comes to mind. So there's things like forest measurement jobs. There are either in urban or non-urban areas. So like really, I think of it as conventional and urban forestry, or the way I like to break it down in my head. And so you've got these timber cruising jobs or forest measurement jobs. I would expect that. We also see people getting jobs in fire, jobs in tree planting and tree planting situations. Nursery operations is another one where we're seeing more growth lately. So really there is a lot. Again, I just would say don't expect to get a crew lead position unless you have some other background too. There is always that aspect that we don't know what else people are sort of piecing together.
Yes, great questions. That's always top of mind. Where are the jobs? Where can I work?
Yes. Do you need a 1-year certificate for, what's that for, Edison? Forestry techniques. Like, do you need a 1-year certificate to get a job? Yes. Okay. So, I mean, like anything, you can always get a job and work your way up. I always feel that that's an important factor for anything in life. If you wanted to become a car mechanic, you could go and become a loop technician, and then you could work your way up to at some point becoming a car mechanic. And you can do that in forestry. You can do that really in any sector. It's that we would give you a whole bunch of skills. So you've all of a sudden got skills already in chain sawing, or you've got skills working in a greenhouse, you've got skills in forest measurement. So your marketability is higher. That's the difference, is that you're coming in with something behind you. But you know, if it's, I always say, tell people, if it's not an option, like if going to school is not an option, I do respect that and do understand that, and I'm always willing to talk to someone about what are ways you can get in, you know, but definitely you're getting a leg up with a 1-year certificate, you're getting a leg up with a 2-year certificate, you're getting a, you know, every bit. The job market is it's a tough one, right? It's competitive. And I see Henda is there. Hi, Henda. Henda is a graduate student who is very well for himself.
I think I remember following Henga and watching a blog. Am I referencing
Yes.
the right student? Yes. So I've told your
Yes.
story a few times, Henga, and your experience at Fleming that you've shared. So
Yeah. I mean, Henda, I hope you don't mind, Henda. I'm gonna say, is from China and came and was very successful in our program. Amazing student, and then went and worked out. It decided he wanted to go to BC and really take in what it meant to be a forestry technician, and jumped in with both feet in the back country, in the remote areas, doing the hard work up and down hills amongst all the nasty plants that they've got out there, and then went on to university, and again just flew, and was very successful, and has the blogs as well as a podcast. Yeah, and done very, very well for himself.
thanks for joining tonight, Henda. That's amazing. Well, we have just a few more minutes left. If anyone has a question, you can pop it in the chat, or as we offered too, emailing us directly. But hoping you'll come join us for open house or book a campus tour. Something to keep in mind if you are residing outside of Lindsay or beyond our commutable borders. Our Lindsay residence is filling up quite quickly, and I do believe there's only a few rooms left. So if you are thinking of relocating to Lindsay for your studies, our residence rooms do fill up quickly. We do have lots of off-campus housing options if the residence is full, but something to keep in mind is that that competitive piece there. We should have got Henga on the call. Amazing.
Compares to, well, I mean, there is a difference. So the Algonquin College program is a technician program. So, but they're an accelerated technician program. So they meet that standard that I mentioned for forestry technician. They meet the provincial program standard. We have that's one of the, it's a hard one to explain because there's not a lot that have these things called program standards, but it's that these deliverables have to be met, whether you offer it at Fleming, Algonquin, Sioux, Confederation College, and Thunder Bay. They have to meet that standard. Now we go over and above, like I said, our forestry technician one, our 2-year. So theirs is 18 months, but so it's accelerated, but they don't have sort of swap piece. They don't quite focus on it that way. They also have, you have to get some extra certificates on your own, and that's actually about what I know of it. I didn't take it, but I know that those are some of the key differences in it. So between techniques and there's it is different, because our techniques is a 1-year certificate program versus theirs, which is a diploma level program.
Perfect. That's often a question we'll get to from students when we have colleges that offer similar or same programming. Is what's the difference? So that's a great one to ask for sure, Grace. So if there are any other questions before we wrap up the session, we could give you back a few minutes in your evening with your families. But as mentioned, this will be posted on the website if you'd like to reference it again. And I do hope that you'll join us in the fall or come visit us for open house or a campus tour. So if there are no other questions, we can close off the session, and we are very thankful that you joined us tonight, and thank you for your interest in Fleming and our forestry programs. We do have some incredible options for students, and I appreciate your time and interest in joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate you being here.
And thank you, Ben, for your time this evening too. To talk, I could feel the passion and the love for the work that you do throughout your presentation. So it was a privilege to be on the call today to sharing what we do.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I hope to see some of these people there. Yes, you too, Henda.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll sign off there and have a great evening, and hope to see you on campus soon.
Yeah.